How's everyone doing today?
Good.
All right. Welcome to whatever day it is, Thursday? Thursday. Wins, gratitudes. What do we got for the week? Month's almost over. Great.
I'm grateful for Rudy and Rick who come here every morning to teach us.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Although I missed this morning, I mean, when I'm
Yeah, it's like you came in after me. And
Well, we miss you too, if you're not here.
Yeah, that's a little tough right now.
A little tough.
Yeah.
But always great stuff.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah, we do appreciate you guys doing that.
I just want to piggyback on that. I love bouncing ideas off of those two because I don't want to make some bonehead, thing out there. I'd like to bounce my ideas off of them and see if it
You want to try the
sticks.
bonehead stuff on them?
Yes.
No wonder he said he was having fun today. There was some good stuff that
He
came out of
actually
it.
had a good line.
Bring it
I mean,
on.
it's poor Evans gets probably beat to death by me more than anybody, and I love the fact that he stays in that heat. But he's probably doing more production than anybody in this room. You might want to consider that. So thanks for being here and going through that heat. That's awesome.
But it's because of you guys. I mean, every one of you that shows up here, every one of you would contribute
Absolutely.
to my growth.
It's awesome.
That's true.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for plugging in. It's awesome.
That's great.
Okay, so to add on to that, it's been
Uh-huh.
a minute since I've been back. What time do you guys start?
7.
At 7 a.m. and practice role playing and stuff?
Yeah.
Well, we will do a listing presentation at 7 to 7:30. We'll pull it apart, diagnose it, what you're doing, how it's impacting, and then we go into objection handling 7:30. And today we did door knocking, which was a ton of fun. We had a good time with it.
Which I
And you
wish
know
I was
what?
here.
And you know what, we're actually asking what you're working on because buyer presentations,
Yes.
buyer objections is really important out there. So we ask what you're prospecting to and that's what actually we're going for.
That's what we're working on, is what you're working on. So it's not specific to what we think you need, it's what do you need. So,
Yeah. Awesome. Tim.
Yeah, I'm grateful for this meeting, just every day coming in, helping with the mindset. It's been a rough week for my family. I had an uncle pass away, so this has kind of helped me be strong for my life,
Awesome.
so thank you.
Yeah, we're glad you're here too. Kimbra.
I'm thankful for everybody in this room. I bought Girl Scout cookies for my kids.
Yeah.
It's super important to them. And everything, like literally, I don't think that people understand literally everything they're learning is what we're learning in this business.
Sure.
I mean, everything, like how they need to call SOI, how they have to call past clients, how they have to knock on doors, how they have to cold, talk to people that they don't know. And it's not easy when you're little to do that. I mean, my kids are 10 and 13, they're not like, little, but they're little enough that those things are hard for kids. And every time that you say yes to them, it builds confidence, and every time that somebody says no, they kind of have to shake it off and move on. And they teach me a lot in that too, because they have goals, and we kind of say, okay, here's your goals, this is what you have to do incrementally. And I always want to kick myself when I am coaching them through that, because I'm literally like, this is exactly what I'm being coached on as well. Like, these are the goals, this is how you incrementally break it down, this is how you do it every day. And so, anyway, I'm just grateful for everybody who,
Awesome.
helps continue to build them, because they will be better at doing something like this in the future because
Yeah.
of what they're learning now.
Yeah.
Are they done?
You could still.
That's awesome. No. So just real quick,
Just kidding.
next week, 4th through the 6th, this elevate your real estate business. If you're not going to this and you don't know anything about it, you need to come talk to us. Because this is about really improving your business, your skills, your confidence, everything to do in this business. George is going to talk for 3 days. He says 2.5 days. Probably 3 days.
Because I'll have one more thing to say.
He'll have one more thing to say. But either way, that one more thing is usually pretty good. So plan on that. We do have this lady, Carissa Coaches or whatever, from Tony Robbins. She's going to come in on Monday. And you
Yeah,
said
she's
11:30?
with the Women's Council
Oh.
and she's coming on Monday
Women's
at
Council.
11:30.
Yeah. 11 o'clock it says.
Oh, did it say 11? Oh, shoot,
11
sorry.
o'clock.
Sorry.
So on Monday,
Does she have anything to do with Tony Robbins?
it says
She
Tony
follows
Robbins,
him very
Peak
closely,
Performance Strategy.
and so what she's going to talk about is a lot of that.
But she's not gonna sell you on,
No.
yeah, it's not one of those.
Yeah, it's more of a motivating talk.
Yeah, so plan on that if you can on Monday, 11 o'clock, 11 to 1, so 2 hours. think that's it.
Jason, also, Purple Moss Photography is gonna be here, I think,
21st.
the 21st. So,
Is that for headshots or is that? the-
shots,
Okay.
team shots, whatever. I mean, you can schedule some time in
Up here.
right up here. They're really good. If they can make this mug stand out in a photo, hey, they can do well.
Yeah.
Is that
Great.
Rob on next Wednesday?
That was yesterday.
That was yesterday,
Okay.
yeah.
And that was really good. He went over some really important changes that happened on February 1st,
Yes.
which is Saturday, that will be a big fine if you don't do it right, just so you know. $500 a fine. So you want to learn about that. He sent out an email on Tuesday. Just if you don't watch the webinar, that's fine, but click on it and then scroll all the way to the bottom and there's these frequently asked questions. And there's like 10 of them. And if you read all 10 of those, you know exactly what's going on because they ask all the questions. But it has to do with putting your listings on the MLS. You have to get it on the MLS within 1 day and do that. Does that make sense, John?
And it's not just $500, it's $500 a day.
Yeah, $500 a day. So that adds up really quick when you go on vacation for a week, just so you know. Yeah, they're not really,
Do you know what the title of the email was?
it's called
Tuesday tips.
Tuesday Tips. Yeah.
And it's on the MLS, so if you can go on that, if you tell real estate, you can do that.
I can, yeah, and after
I
after
definitely
this, if you guys have questions about it, I can answer some of the questions about it too. So I was thinking today, Rick said something yesterday in the group of something that I had told him a while ago, and I wanted to elaborate it on a little bit more because I think it's a really important concept that if we can understand in this business, then we can take control of the business more. Okay? The comment that he made was something that I told him a while ago when an agent came to me and they were super stressed out about a situation, and everyone in the room started getting really tense and really frustrated about the situation. I said, their emergency is not my emergency. Okay? At the first thought of that, it can kind of sound a little bit rude. Like, I don't really care what they're doing. I don't really care what's going on in them. Has anyone ever been in a real life emergency before?
Of course.
What's the mindsets going on? What's happening in the scenario? You don't need to explain the scenario, but
Well, most people are either panic or run,
okay.
but somebody has to keep their head together and figure out what needs to be done.
Yeah. So in that emergency that you're referring to, you had people running around, you had people that were just panicking, right?
Right.
Anybody else been in an emergency, a real life emergency?
Oh, yeah.
What was your situation? What was it like
The
then?
1989 earthquake, it was just me and 2 other kids home, and so we just, we had to go back to our training because we practiced earthquake drills all the time when we were little. So we just had to go back to what we knew. Just
Yeah. Back to your
Keep yourself
what you
safe.
knew.
Well, I've been in a scenario where I got a phone call that my brother's in the hospital, and you just drop everything and you go frantic and you're so emotional that I didn't tell anyone. I just got into the car and I jet to the hospital. So instantly you're not thinking about anything else but that, and your emotions are at a level that you can't even explain.
Yeah. And I would imagine you don't remember the drive there,
I know.
right?
I was like,
Okay.
how fast can I get there?
So in an emergency situation, our minds do what?
Beeline focus on
Autopilot, beeline focus on something, right?
Focus on what
Everything
you're
else,
only
okay?
thinking about.
What if you don't know what to do? Now what's your mind doing?
Panic.
Now you're in this panic and run, right? That's the things that are going through our head. So I do a lot of the search and rescue stuff that's around here. So I come upon emergencies a lot, and one of the strategies that we use when we come upon a situation that's having a problem is we have to figure out where the mindset is with everybody you're dealing with. You might be in a scenario where there's 10 people that are there, and out of 10 people, how many do you think are freaking out?
9.
9, right?
Normally.
Normally it's 9. Normally it's all except for 1, because we're going to have one person that's going to gravitate to take control. So how does this relate to real estate?
Big time.
Everything else.
Okay? Big time in what way? Let's talk about this a little bit more so we can understand it.
I would say in real estate, you being the agent, you have to be that one person. That's the eye of the storm, level-headed.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
heard people say you have to be the calm in the storm. You have to be the one, like the bearing for your client. And it's, you know, a lot of other agents will get really emotional with you when something's going wrong, or they, you know, they're concerned for their client or something. They'll start yelling at you and stuff. It's like, I mean, freaking out with them doesn't do anybody good.
No.
And this is, at the end of the day, this is just a transaction, and there's gonna be a million like it. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I
I like
mean,
that.
just honestly putting the fire out for them, saying, letting them know that there's options and solutions when they see nothing. You're the avenue for that.
Yeah, so even in a real estate transaction, we think that there could be two agents that are level-headed, but if there's only one person in an emergency that's really focused on getting something done, one of those agents isn't focused. One of them has got something else on their mind, right? So I bring this up as their emergency is not my emergency. Doesn't necessarily mean that I don't really care what their emergency is. It's that somebody has to take control of the situation. And if you're coming to me with an emergency, or you're coming to someone else with an emergency, the chances are we're not thinking straight, right? Our mind is frustrated. It's an emergency because you're in this zone of panic, don't know what to do, don't see the options yet. And you might come to me and I might not have options yet, but is that helpful?
Oh, yeah.
Even if I don't have the options, it's still helpful, right?
It is, definitely. It's like,
Right?
okay, we'll figure this out. It's okay. Like, you know, I've had deals fall apart because of repairs. It's ridiculous. But, you know, you have that. Like, nope, I'm not doing anything. Absolutely not. And that's coming from the seller's agent. Like, nope, we're not doing anything. We're not going to fix a thing. You know, and my buyer's like, well, we're spending all this money. They're not helping with closing costs. And we have to pay for repairs. And we don't know what's going to happen to the house. And it's just, it fell apart. Because they were just not ready to close the deal. And then the only thing I said to the agent at the end is like, the repairs maybe cost $1,000 or $2,000, but we just lost a deal because of it. And he was quiet. And I said, I don't know if that was there, but you could have guided your seller a little bit better on that end. And we found another house within a week, so it was fine. But
Yeah. So as you're facing those, so I was in a rescue a couple of years ago that. Typically when we go out on the rescue, the emergency happened and then we're there. Like, it's happened and then we go to the emergency and then we help them out and we go. In this particular one, the emergency had already happened and then it escalated when we got there because we were using a helicopter and the helicopter ended up crashing during our rescue. Okay? So it ended up creating bigger problems. Well, here's the challenge. As soon as the helicopter crashed, as it was crashing, the flight manual, which is about this thick, comes flying out of the helicopter and just scatters the mountain.
Wow.
Okay, well now I have 6 rescuers, the original patient, all freaking out. But we didn't have a solution yet, but we had to take control. So in this particular case, we did one thing, and this seems really silly, but I told them, I said, we need to pick up this flight manual. Everything has to be picked up. Now, if you've seen a flight manual, they're boilerplate. We really don't have to pick it up. But what happened was I assigned each one of them to go get paper. Go do something. Here's a task, go do it. It was a meaningless task, but because we're in this mode that we're talking about, this flight or freak out mode, we have to be controlled. We have to control ourselves. We have to say, okay, this is the task I want you to do. Okay, same thing in real estate. We're freaking out. We don't have any deals. We don't have any money coming down the pipeline. We have a big bill that just came up. We didn't realize it was going to come up, and we start going into this freak out mode. We have to take ourselves out and start doing one little task. So they start doing this task. They start picking up these papers. Okay, within 30 minutes, heart rates start to come down. Everything starts to look normal. We realize that, you know, everybody's still intact, and we're ready to actually make decisions to get off the mountain. Same thing in our real estate career. Have we ever seen it where one problem escalates into the next problem, escalates into the next problem, and pretty soon deals die? Have we ever experienced that?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so sometimes it's a matter of just taking a step back and starting something. Might be, okay, well, I can't control this right now, but I can control whether I call another person. I get on the phone and I have somebody who's just really upset with me, and they're mad because they're on the do not call list, and for some reason I didn't realize that. They have to let me know about the rules. I don't know if you guys have ever had that one, but
Oh, yeah.
you get to that point and then you have to go to the next call. A lot of us will just stop. We'll get into this panic mode of like, oh, I can't do it. Like life is going against me. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we have to take control. So how do we take control in real estate? What are ways we can take control?
I mean, to start, you just focus on what is actually in your control.
Okay, so focus on what's in your control.
I can't control that I called somebody on the do not call list, but I can control who I'm about to contact, and not making that next contact is really the solution.
Yeah, I like that. Why?
I think one is to have a schedule. I think sometimes when you don't have a schedule, when something like that happens, then things are going to be more chaotic. But when you have a schedule, you know, well, I know I still have to get this done, or prospecting this time is from here to here. I'll take care of that, and then I'll take care of this. I think it just puts order.
Yeah, puts order. It goes back to what Timber you said earlier about the earthquake. As soon as it happened, you went back to what your order of this is what needs to happen, and then you started following that. So if you have that in place, if we don't have a schedule put in place for our real estate, like a real strong schedule, when we get off our schedule, we have nothing to go back to.
I think in a real estate transaction, figuring out what the mutual goals are, kind of going back to what the mutual goals are. Like I have one right now where the seller has to work some stuff out, and the buyer's like, we're gonna take you to court if we can't close. When I called Rob, he was like, it's not as open and shut as people think it is. And if the goal is performance, he can't force performance, so we just have to wait until performance can be, performed. But if the goal is just to be upset, then he can force you to pay, and so when you go back and just ask that question, like, what is our mutual goal, then we were able to come to an agreement that was less emotional.
Yeah, and this goes back to what Ruby was talking about, is driving to the hospital. She's so focused on the one thing, she forgets everything else. Same thing with, I'm gonna sue you, I'm gonna sue you, I'm gonna sue you, without realizing what that entails, or maybe there's a better solution. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it also comes down to your why. Like, like in the case of you get a bad phone call, someone tells you to, hangs up on you or whatever. You have to come back to, why am I doing this? And that gets you through that situation where you just keep pushing through, to remind yourself your why and keep updating your why. Because we change as we go through the process, and just keeping that current to get through that.
Yeah, I like that. Wayne.
I play basketball, and sometimes I'll miss 5 shots in a row. I just got to keep on thinking that I've just got to keep doing what I've always done, and pretty soon the shots will come back.
Yeah, so believing that you've done it before so you can do it again, kind of thing.
That's good.
I like that.
Just had a quick comment. So I think it's important, whether it's surrounding yourself with positive agents or lender title on your team. Like I had a lender that was just freaking out one time. I'm like, dude, it's not even that big of a deal. So just level-headed people, or agents that use verbiage like, oh my gosh, it's so crazy, like it's not even a big deal. It's just chill out,
Yeah. Okay. So you use some of the words to bring them back around.
And the people you surround yourself with.
Yeah. Okay. I like that.
Sometimes when you're in a hole, you gotta put down the shovel and you gotta give yourself that small win, that first step. So when you find yourself in that situation, just giving yourself that little win. If you've got a dozen things that are on your list, and just get one that you can just go for that one you're gonna cross off right away, and celebrate that win, and then it's easier to move on to that next one.
Yeah, I like that. Okay.
I like to try to stick by the principles that George and the other brokers here teach, because in a time of stress, that will help us remain professional, no matter what. We don't revert to emotions.
Yeah. So there's a quote from Never Split the Difference that I really liked. It says, in a stressful situation, you don't rise to the level of situation, you rise to the level of preparation that you put into it. So if you have no preparation for it, you have nothing that's there, you're not going to rise to that occasion. You might just fail in that, right? So we might have to reset it.
I honestly, when something goes wrong, you instantly relate it to pain of something that has happened. Like, oh my gosh, I cannot do this. So it's your own language in your own mind. So try to find a happy place to go to and breathe. Like literally, no matter what is falling apart, whether you're on the phone, whether it's in person, whether something, you just have to breathe and be like, okay, I need to find a solution. Go to a happy place in your mind. Like Tim said, it's your why, or it's the reason why you do things, or like, okay, I can do this. I'm just learning. I'm gonna get through this just fine. Whether it's a phone call or it's someone on the do not call list is just nonstop going beep, 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 like I'll take you or sue you or whatever. You have to really, I'm so sorry, I actually didn't realize you were on the do not call list. I'll make sure you're on there, make sure no one else calls you. That's the only thing you can say to diffuse the situation and hang up with them. Whether they try and get more information from you. But when a deal falls apart or when there's a situation that, honestly, like if you can't turn around and just close your eyes and go to a happy place for a minute, it's gonna be hard for you to go to that level.
Yeah.
And I've learned to do that. I've had a lot of difficult few years. And I've had to take a moment and think, okay, but I do have this. I've lost this, but I do have this. So you need to go to a grateful place immediately, or else you can't diffuse any other situations.
Yeah, so that's a great strategy that you use to do that. And that's one thing I'll get to you guys' comments here. We're looking at some solutions to it. I want to make sure that we're not leaving the fact that if we're in a stressful situation, something has to get us out of that. Okay, we have to, looking at our why and doing all these are action steps that move us forward. But if we're in freak out mode, we have to do the breathing. We have to do things that will trigger that for us so that we can get our mindset back on there. If we're in a room right here and all of us are freaking out, what's going to happen? Nothing. We're all going to freak out. Right? That's it.
I'm gonna pull out my why. No, I'm just kidding.
It comes down to it, because reality is, if I would have told this group of rescuers that were with me, if I would have told them, okay, I need you to go pick up the paper, and one of the guys would have said to me, well, that's ridiculous. Why would I do a thing like that? It's wasteful. It's wasting our time.
Yeah.
They weren't in that frame of mind. They were in this frame of freak out of like, wow, did I just almost die here? Like, what just happened? And that elevates everything in the process. And sometimes we have to do these small little steps to reset. And then once we've done that small little step, once you start thinking clearly again, then what you guys are saying is exactly right. It clicks in there, you start doing it, you're looking at your why, you're recentering, you're redoing the calls, but we have to trigger that, we have to do that. And we do that with our clients as well. Our clients will be going down a path, and it will start creating this anxiety within them. Is sellers or buyers ever anxious in the process of selling?
Oh my gosh.
Okay, a lot of times. If they're anxious, are they thinking clearly?
No.
Usually not, right? Okay, we have to get them back on track. There's the techniques, the level shifts, the pattern interrupts. These are the skills that get us back on track. Evan.
One thing that I like to do is read books. One that I'm reading right now is Millionaire Mindset. And he's telling us to write down the things that we all grew up with, things about money, and we have to totally wipe that off, because sometimes our parents taught us things when we were young, and it's about wiping that out, about programming and reestablishing something that works.
Yeah.
And
So resetting.
And so
I like that.
you write out what's happening, you get rid of you shred that out of your life, and you keep on doing affirmations. And that's the reason why we do affirmations here, is so that we can reprogram our minds for success.
Yeah, I like that.
I was just gonna say, with your experience, you have so many emergencies you've dealt with in the past. Same thing for us. When something happens, it's easy to freak out, but if you just revert back to your past experiences, like, hey, I've been in emergency situations before, and they've always worked out. Like that one story where you're stuck in that water, and you just have just trying to drill a small little note, and you just allow yourself to freak out for a second. But the point that I'm making is, if you just revert back to the fact that, I've been in a car accident before, or I've been in a situation before with a transaction, and where it all looks doom and gloom, but things work out. And if things don't work out and you're gonna die, then there's really no reason to freak out either. because you're gonna be dead, right? But I guess the point I'm trying to make is, if you kind of keep your emotions between the lines, and that happens not just like when you're freaking out, but also when something great happens. You set a great appointment, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be a listing, a buy and a sell. I know it.
Yeah.
Do you just like throw up your hands and you start celebrating and stop prospecting, or do you get
Some
back?
agents do.
Yeah, or do you get back on the phones and allow yourself to keep your emotions in between the lines? And I always look at that as a negative thing, like, oh, that means you don't want to celebrate. You're not trying to be enthusiastic and stuff. But actually, what that means is you can celebrate, but that you're not going to allow it to affect the next action you take.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Greg?
My favorite principle from George is where he puts integrity at the top of the list, then people, and then money. So you can ask yourself, okay, is integrity being addressed here first? Now I'll deal with the people. And if it's a matter of telling the people the truth to keep your integrity, well, that's number one. So that's like a guide to fall back on when it's time to make decisions.
Yeah, I like that.
I think one thing that it comes back is just leadership. Like, you know, your clients have hired you to either sell or help them buy a home. They've never done this before, so they're gonna have these freakouts. So you've gotta be the one that says, it's okay. I've done this before, it's okay. Just like you help them stop, this is what we need to do. And so I think we can't be the one that escalates it further and have that as your emergency. It has to stop at you, calm them down, and then go back to their why. You know, like, but you're hired to be the one to do that for them, because sometimes this might be the first home they have done or whatever. We have to go back to our leadership and help them through that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's our job.
Yeah, it reminds me of a story. So we had a guy up Little Cottonwood Canyon that was climbing up some boulders, and a big boulder rolled down on top of him. So it's a 2,000-pound boulder that was from his waist down, was lying on. If I would have shown up freaking out like he was freaking out, would that have helped him?
No.
No. And it did take us 3 hours to get the boulder off. So we had to keep this calm thing so that he could be okay, and he ended up being okay. But, you know, I can't push 2,000 pounds.
Did you just keep on rolling it over him, or what?
We just used little hammers just over and over and over and over, and eventually it broke.
No, but I like that, staying calm. When, raise your hand.
She didn't,
Oh,
but
sorry.
she's an expressive like you, so she's going to interrupt you.
No, you go first, please.
Go ahead, Ruby.
No, please go.
All right, Timber.
That's okay, she's an expressive too, so she gets it. But I love that scenario, that honestly, like when we were in the hospital, I cannot forget the scene where everyone's in tears and freaking out, and I'm just like, okay, he's gonna be fine. I gotta go talk to the doctor. So I just went out and I started to ask, tell me exactly what's going on. Like, honestly, you have to have that one person, and it's a practice. It's not, because if you honestly think that you can control your emotions all the time, you can't. But it's a practice saying, okay, I need to find a solution. If you have that in your mind, and honestly, like even when we're prospecting, you get those no's, you get those hang-ups and all that. If you just breathe and be like, okay, I'm doing this for a reason, it's gonna be okay, I gotta go find a solution. I mean, it wasn't okay, my brother died, but still, if I didn't go and try to get the more specialists and go trying to find all the solutions, find out exactly what's going on, there probably wouldn't be an answer, regardless. So you gotta be that person that takes practice to do that as well, to keep your emotions under control.
And find your trigger, what works for you.
I was gonna say, like, kind of like what Ruby's saying, but
Good thing she went first, right?
Rejection isn't as hard as like having to overcome other people's mindset all the time.
Yeah.
And that is probably the harder part of our job, and like what Matt's saying, not letting whatever that person said to you affect the next action you have to take. The other day we knocked on a door, and this lady said to us 6 times, well, I just feel really sorry for you if this is your job. I just feel really sorry for you if this is, and we just were like, and it was like, you know, I mean, she's an older woman, but it's like, how many times can somebody say that to you without you just walking away being like, yeah, I just feel really sorry for myself. You know? but I finally just said to her, you don't have to feel sorry for me, because I love my job. I love helping people. I understand that you want to give your house to your kids, but not everybody is in your situation. But it was just this like mindset of like, of course, everybody feels exactly like I do. You're the worst people in the world. You're just trying to make money off of me. Everybody's going to give their house to their kids. You're an idiot. Why are you here? And we just left, and we kind of laughed it off. And I was like, obviously, when somebody says something like that to you so many times, so quickly, it's about them and it's not about you. You know, I mean, she doesn't know me, but just overcoming other people's mindsets all of the time, whether they're in freak out or they're just in devastation or they're just sad people, you know, is sometimes the harder part of our job than anything is like compensating for somebody else's poor mindset when we're trying to you know, stay on
And
top
that's exactly
of
what our job is.
minds.
Our job is to help control that. Because if we go back to the start, if you go back to the start of what we were talking about, in any given situation, if 10 people are involved, 9 of them are going to be in freak out mode, because freak out is actually the easier of the two. So we revert back to the easier of the two. So if one person takes charge, the other ones will be like, oh good, I don't have to do that. And they're just going to stay in that mode of, okay, I'm going to go find these papers. I'm going to go find that. So if we know this going into the transaction and it's stressful, and you consciously say to yourself, I'm the one in charge here. I'm the one that's going to take this. 9 times out of 10, we're going to be right. Everyone else is going to freak out. Just 1 second. We'll go with here, and then we'll have to.
Well,
we'll do
I love.
2 more.
I've had a couple transactions. Well, the last 2 have been like unbelievably hard. But
No worries.
these 2 affirmations that we're going to read and then just chant in a few minutes is: I control my thinking, and my thoughts lead my emotions, actions, and results. And I saw real power in that, in being able to control the thoughts in my own head, thereby controlling my emotions, and then what I did, and then the result that we had.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I like that.
You know, I think Brene Brown gives the best advice on freak out moments. You remember what she talks about? She says somebody comes and they're like, oh my gosh, they're gonna lay off half the staff.
Oh yeah.
And another person's like, instead of freaking out, they're like, they information gather. All they do is grab more information, ask questions, and then they establish, do I have enough information to freak out? And then once they have that information and they know they could freak out, then they have to ask themselves, does freaking out help? And I think that was the most straightforward advice on how to deal with a scenario like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, if you haven't heard Brene Brown's stuff, that's a great one.
I love that you had them pick up the papers, the flight manual, because that papers all over, I think, was a great metaphor for the chaos of the situation, but also a great metaphor of putting things back together again. Kind of like that video of that military guy who says, make your bed in the morning. That probably has nothing to do with your day, but the mindset of just keeping things together. That's good.
Yeah.
I think that was really smart to do that, pick off the papers.
Awesome. So just again, I just want to reiterate, their emergency doesn't have to be my emergency. And that's the mantra I say every time I go up on a rescue and I'm about ready to come, I know I'm coming upon something that I don't want to necessarily see. I will say that to myself all the time, and I'll breathe. I'll take a couple deep breaths and I'll say, their emergency is not my emergency. I can take control. And then I walk into it and take control. Then after it's done, then I can go and freak out. But at that point, that's what it is. So that's my challenge to you guys this week, is just realize that you have control of being in charge. Okay? All right, let's have a good week. Let's good rest of the week. All right, closing affirmations. Nice to see you because I know my goals. I'm an optimist. I like talking to new people. I know it's important to me. I remember people's names.